Hello, in this video I want to talk about using constraints to drive extrusions, and the way we're going to do that is with history. So you can see here I've got a constraint get set up for this L shape, perhaps it's for a bracket or something, and you can see the driving dimensions are set up. So if I adjust the various values here, they're updating the way that's more or less anticipated. So in order to actually set up the extrusion, I'm going to come down here and you see this record history button is enabled. You can see it's highlighted like that. And I can come up to the solid menu and hit extrude planar curve, and I'll go with straight. Now it's prompting us for the curves to extrude, so I'll go ahead and select all those curves in the constraint sketch and hit enter. And I think 10 units is a good extrusion distance that I want. And now, if we come back to the dimensions and double click them, you can see that the extrusion updates with the constraints. So now what if we want to use a constraint to kind of determine the extrusion distance? Well, we can do that by adding another curve to the sketch. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this line down here, and then I'll select it and hit Control. Hold Control and hit the right click button to bring up the constraints creation menu, and I'll choose the add to sketch option. And then since I only have one sketch, you can see the sketch up here is already set to it, and go ahead and hit enter, and now that line has been added to the constraint sketch. So I think I need a couple more constraints on this. The first one probably will be a horizontal constraint, and I want this on the world top C plane to follow the x-axis here, and just go ahead and hit enter. And then finally I can select that curve again, and I will do a dim aligned, so that way we can actually have a driving dimension associated with it. So I'll go ahead and hit the driving option as yes, and then place it, and you can see that there's now a driving dimension hooked up to this curve. So again, I can go ahead and put solid, extrude planar curve, and this time I'll do a long curve. And again, this is with the record history button enabled. I'll go ahead and select all those constrained curves as the input, and then I will choose that new curve we just added as the extrusion curve. And now I can actually update that new driving dimension we just added, and it'll update the extrusion distance. And so now we have kind of fully set up extrusion that's all defined with constraints.